Hey folks, this is Maria Abreu. This is the second episode of Wine Wednesdays, and we are going to be talking about relationships. Got your wine? Because the topic is very interesting, okay? I'm going to share a funny joke with you guys. See, my tech guy doesn't want me to say anything, but this is just too damn funny. I want you to know that I did this video, the whole thing. I mean, I was all revved up and inspired, and then he figured out 40 minutes later we ain't recording. So we had to do it all over. This is the second take. So if I think he been hitting the wine a little hard. But anyway, it's okay. It's fine. Things happen. I'm very zen. I'm not about to get upset at stuff. If things happen, right? Okay. Now listen, as I mentioned before, um, in this segment, we don't talk about law, we talk about life, specifically life as an expat. And so in this particular episode, we're going to be talking about relationships, okay? Now, when we talk about now, I want to just say from the outset that I don't have the arrogance to actually believe that I have the answers to all questions, that my advice is the best and applies to everybody and their circumstance. Okay. This is a big ass world with a lot of people in it. Different, intellectual and emotional makeup, different belief systems, different backgrounds. So, what is talked about here, the advice given, the suggestions may not apply to all. Okay. But if we can in some way share an experience or information that helps you to approach in an efficient way a situation you're going through. If it helps you to solve a problem, it gives you an idea of how to deal with something you're going through. Or even if it makes you feel better about knowing that you're not alone, then my experiences are well worth it. Listen, I'm not interested in giving off the appearance or the image that I have it all together, that I make no mistakes and I have all the answers. In plain French, that's bullshit. It is human to err. It is part of the human condition to make mistakes, to trip and fall, to hit a wall, or even rock bottom. Okay? That's part of being alive. And no person that you come across can say they haven't gone through it. Of course they have. But if what I'm trying to create here is a community, it's a family. We could share things. And if through the experience that I've lived, you can benefit, then great. Then my experience was well worth it if it helps you. Okay? Also, I have to say that, in a law firm, you see a lot of things, folks. When you deal with as many clients as we have throughout the years, you see a lot of things. You see a lot of tendencies. So much so that, a client could start a story and I could end it without knowing the particulars because it's a common occurrence. So I want to take what I've seen in the firm and bring it to you so that it can somehow illuminate you in your path, help you in your decision-making process, and serve as caution. And we're going to be talking a lot about that tonight. How to avoid the pitfalls that come with long-distance intercultural relationships. I mean, it's something that has to be talked about, guys. It's very common. I see it all the time. So let's talk about it. All right. Now, when we talk about, expat relationships, we automatically think about single expats that want to marry a Dominican. But that's not In other words, that term is not exclusive to that situation. It could also refer to married foreigners who come to the country as expats. Okay? And that's how I came. If you remember in the previous Wine Wednesday, the first episode, I talked about that I came with my husband. Now, what is something that expats who come as married couples have to keep in mind? What are some of the pitfalls they need to avoid? Well, first of all, what I'm about to tell you is a matter of logic, and most people who are married do this. It's important to sit down prior to coming to the country and talk about it, which I'm sure everybody does. You know, all married couples who want to emigrate do this. But it's important to talk about, you know, what to expect once you're here. And I'll give you an example. When I came to the country, I mentioned to you that my husband and I got involved in volunteer work, part of the reason that we came, right? A few days ago, because I mentioned also that my ex-husband and I have remained friends, he said something that was amazing and I appreciated it and true. He said, you know, when I came to the country, I got so caught up with the volunteer work that we were involved in that I kept pushing my limits to see how much further I can go without realizing that I had gone past yours. I had pushed you past your limits. And so it got to the point where you had to disconnect from me and what we were doing and involve yourself in an activity that you were more familiar with and had more control over, which is business. Okay? And he said to me, in retrospect, I should have focused more on being a good husband because that was more important than anything else. And I really appreciated that. I did. Although I want to say it's not his fault. Whenever you have a separation or a divorce, it takes two. So even though when, you know, something happens where people break up, you know, each party has a list of what the other one did to ruin the relationship, wake up call, you have something to do with it too. And that's being honest and that's being realistic. And I too, on my part, have shared with him what I could have done different while we were married. Okay. But it's interesting that he said that. Because when you're going to come to the country, I have seen you know, with my clients, I've seen this. Like they'll come to the country and one side says, well, I want to live in the city, especially if they're older and they're here to retire, because I want to be close to the hospitals. I want to be close to the police palace. I want to be, you know, close to services, you know. And then the other side says, oh, no, I'm not going to the city. I want to live in the mountains. I want to, you know, breathe fresh air. I left the city. I don't want to live in the city. Then you have another couple and they'll say, well, I don't speak the language, so I want to go and be where there's an expat community. And then the other side will say, I don't want to be, you know, among, you know, people from the country. I just left the country to come to a different country. I don't want to be, let's say, in Little America. I want to live where the Dominicans are, far away from expats. I don't want expats. Then you'll have one side that says, well, another client says, well, I'm so glad we're here. We've worked hard all of our lives. We're finally retired and we can relax. And then the other side said, usually the guy, I'd say this, usually the man says, well, this about sipping coffee while I watch the sunrise is a bit much. They're going to find me hard in a chair dead. I need to do something. So he starts getting involved in business ventures. and then the wife isn't happy. So you see where I'm going with this? As a couple, you have to talk about what the expectations are once you come to the country. Then you have one side that wants to invest, they're gung-ho about investing, but then you have the marriage mate, the spouse, that says, whoa, whoa, pump the brakes. I want to be here a while and get familiar with the country before putting money in here. So what I'm getting at, it's important as expat couples that you understand that each side is going to have different expectations and views of life here. Make sure that you are on the same page. Make sure that those views converge into one plan, one goal. Okay? That's important. And another thing is, it is one thing for you to theoretically talk about something, meaning you're in the States, you talk about what you want to do here in the life you're going to lead here. It is quite another to get to the DR. Once you're here, periodically sit down, compare notes, talk about how you're feeling, talk about, the things you may not be comfortable with, or the things you want to change or approach differently. That's very, very important, because I can't tell you how many clients have gotten frustrated because they feel living here has affected their marriage mate in a way they don't like. So they just decide to pack it up and go back home. So it's important, as a married couple or as a couple that's been living together for a while, that you really get on the same page, okay? But what about single expats? I'm gonna have to take a little swig before we get into that. Very common for foreigners who visit the country frequently because they're looking to invest, because they want to open bank accounts. Some of them just like to visit frequently. Like in Puerto Plata, you have a whole bunch of people that just like to go spend weekends, vacation time there. These are people that eventually want to get residency status. Some people want to come retire here in the future. Other people want to, spend time, half the time here, half the time back home. Whatever the reason is, these are foreigners who are frequent visitors. And at some point, they meet someone and they start to date. Okay? Now, listen, folks, I don't want you to take what I'm about to share with you as a criticism or as a way of dissuading you from, having a long distance intercultural relationship. Not at all. Okay? What I'm looking to do is to give you a clear picture of the dangers and pitfalls that accompany that type of relationship, so that if you choose to move forward with a long distance intercultural relationship, you do so taking the proper precautions. You do so understanding that this type of a relationship is more prone to failure in time. And so you're going to take measures to avoid that. Okay? So it's not me talking you guys out of anything. It's me helping you to avoid getting into something that later on you have to get out of in a painful way. So let's get into brass tacks. I have clients. First of all, let me just explain something. Long distance relationships, whether you are of the same culture or not, they're just hard. And one of the reasons is that getting to know a person when you live in different countries is quite a challenge. And the reason for this is because it is human nature to want to cause a good impression. It is human nature to put your best foot forward. And let me bring my example back into this. Okay, so I am getting to know a person Okay, that's like pre-dating. It's kind of like dating, but you know, you're getting to know the person to see if you want to date, whatever, we're dating. But it's kind of like the initial stages of dating. And this person has a very high profile position in the country. So scheduling is an absolute nightmare. Scheduling time to see each other is a bit of a challenge. So he is into video conferencing. Now, you know that more than half the time, my camera's off, honey, because I am not about to let this man see me, with a crazy bun, with no makeup, my pajamas on. I'm not doing that. That camera's on when I look flawless. You hear me? I have to have my look together because it's human nature. You want to look your best. You want this person to look at you and say, You see, so it's human nature. You can't even say that the other person is using guile or being dishonest. It's not dishonesty. We all do it. We all do it. Okay? We put on our best suit in order to talk to the person that we are interested in. So long distance relationships have that challenge. Unless you spend real time with the person, you don't know who they really are. Okay? So my suggestion is that you do that. Before you get into the whole marriage talk or engage, spend real time with the person. See them in different scenarios. See them around their family. Okay? And that way you'll get to know who you're dealing with. Because if you're dating and you marry while each of you lives in a separate country, honey, living together, at some point, you're going to live together. And the facade is going to give way to reality. And then you're going to realize you never really knew the person. The idiosyncrasies are going to start to surface. The real person, and this is not to say they're a bad person, but maybe you realize at that point that they are not the person for you. And that's what you need to avoid. Okay? That's the part that you need to avoid. So try spending real time with the person. Because I got to tell you something. You have to love people as a whole. You can't love people in slices. You got to take the good with the bad. But in order to see the bad and determine whether you can live with it, you have to really get to know them. Which brings me to the second issue with intercultural long distance relationships. I mean, the language barrier will always be present, but it can't be a crippling factor. And what I mean by this, I've had clients who tell me, Maria, you know, she doesn't speak any English and I don't speak Spanish, but we manage. Really? If communication is the building block and foundation of all relationships, any and all relationships, how can that work? If you can't know that person's thoughts, their feelings, their experiences, their approach to life, their philosophy, if you can't get to know the essence of a person, what are you in love with? The physical appearance, perhaps? Or is it the idea of marrying that person? Or is it the idea of getting married, period? I mean, listen, we all do the vision board, right? We all do the manifestation. Okay, I want to live in the capital. I want to live in the nobody wants to live in the capital. That's left out. I want to live in the island, marry a beautiful woman, have kids, be happy. I want to do that. And so you build in your head this perfect picture that someone you meet You probably don't even see the person. You just see how they all of a sudden fit into the picture in your head. Got to be careful with that. You have to be very careful with that. Because getting to know a person who, let me tell you, physical beauty fades. Has it ever happened to you that you see a fine looking man or a beautiful woman, and the first time you see them, oh, you just can't get over it. But the more you see that person, the more you get used to their looks. All of a sudden, time goes by, somebody else comes and says, wow, that woman is beautiful. And you're like, eh. See, because the effects of beauty in the person fades. And what remains is the other stuff. Who they are, how they feel, how they make you laugh, how they interact with you, the respect that you have for each other, how they help you and you help them through things. These are the things that remain. And if the language barrier is such that you can't even, get a sentence through and understand each other, you have to think about it. That could turn into a problem later on. And then here's the other danger with that. When you don't understand each other, what tends to happen is you start to fill in the blanks. You don't understand what they said, so you're like, this is what she probably meant. This is what he was probably trying to say. You start to fill in the blanks with what you think that person is trying to say or what that person is thinking. So in essence, you're building in your head an image. The problem with that is that imaginary people have no flaws. So here again, it's a danger. Okay? If you're going to pursue an intercultural relationship, make sure you take the time to really understand, even if you speak different languages, what that person is saying, the ideas they're transmitting, their thoughts, their feelings, and you do the same. Okay? That is very important. Another pitfall. Now, I gotta say this. There's a lot of talk about the tendency that Dominicans have to take financial advantage of foreigners. Let's just talk about listen. We're talking straight, right? Let's address the elephant in the room, honey. I know we're not talking about me. I will cut you if you're thinking about me. Don't even joke. But anyhow, a lot of people talk about the chapeadoras, women who get with foreigners for financial gain. And they talk about the sanky pankies, men who do that with foreign women. Listen, it happens. Yes, it does. And I'm going to say it's not just a Dominican tendency. Any person who sees an open door is going to walk through it. So it is your responsibility to shut that down so that it can't happen to you. Now, how do you know? How do you know if someone is trying to take financial advantage? Well, even though it is common for people who are married or engaged or have been together for a significant amount of time to, help each other out financially, shoulder financial responsibilities together, it is out of place and should set off alerts if a person you just met starts talking about their financial difficulties. Okay? That should set off alerts. And it's interesting that I'm saying Americans because I'm an American expat. So even though this content applies to people of all nationalities, we're focusing on, I'm saying Americans as a point of as just a point of reference. So what an American won't do at home, he'll do here. What am I talking about? You're not going to start dating a girl and start paying all her bills back home. So why would you do it here? Back home, I mean, to get a man to propose, honey, you got to go through it. Men will date forever and not propose. And yet here, they're dating for 6 months and all of a sudden they're engaged. So what is it? What makes you change? What makes you do things in the DR that you wouldn't do back home? You follow me? So you have to be careful. You cannot start giving out money and covering, expenses for a person that you just spent. Nobody does that. And I know that a lot of people say, well, the Dominican Republic is a developing country, so it's very common for that, for them to be very open. And it's true, Dominicans are very open about things. They talk about things with strangers as if they know them forever. But still, the money issue is something that in a relationship, you got to regulate. So when you're coming in, close the wallet. Okay? And let me take a swig of this wine before I say what I'm about to say, but it needs to be said. Okay. US, look, I even got a cough attack. Especially be careful about conversations about financial difficulties after you've been intimate. I have heard, and I know for a fact, that many times once you are intimate with that person, you've slept together, that's when they start talking about financial issues. That's when they feel it's okay to bring up the topic. You understand? And I've heard Dominican men who are friends of mine say, well, we slept together, so I'm gonna have to loosen up the purse strings. Really? Is that the rule? Well, that brings me to my next topic. Let me tell you, you gotta lay down from the beginning what you are willing and unwilling to do, what you expect out of this relationship, okay, and what you are, willing to give. And I'm gonna take you to I'm chock full of stories. That's why this segment is so interesting. When I was studying law here, okay, when I was in law school here, I had a classmate, okay. I called him Blondie Rubio. Tall guy, blonde hair, green eyes, strong built, was a gym buff. He lived in the state for several years. In fact, I think 20 years. And we were pretty much the same age, and we were studying law together here. We were in law school. Man, this guy was such a player. It was not even funny. This guy would go through women like Captain Kirk. Remember Captain Kirk? And Captain Kirk and him. I'm talking about these were like soul brothers. See how Captain Kirk would get with a human, a Klingon, she could be pink, purple, green. That was this guy. He was, when it came to women, he was just relentless. Any nationality, any woman of any age. It was just women. And one day I said to him, I was like, Blondie, how do you get away with being with this many women without having issues? I don't even see how that's possible. Women are complicated creatures. He was like, oh, that's easy. I got me a formula, and I was like, I have got to hear this. What's your formula? He was like, look, when a woman and I become attracted, got that flirtation going on, you see something's about to happen, I sit her down and I tell her, look at here, we're not going to have marriage. I'm not falling in love. We're not having kids. We are not moving in together. We're here to have a good time. Now, if you're with that, let the games begin. If not, it's been real. I said, Blondie, you are such a pig. And he was like a brother to me. I'm like, I can't believe you say that. He was like, I do too. And I said, but wait a minute. Women will say a lot of things, but they're creatures that change their mind. They change direction. That might be okay, but they could turn on you. He was like, that's not my problem. As long as I was honest from the beginning, what goes through their head is of no consequence to me. That they figured I'm going to change. They could make me fall in love. They could they could make me change my ways. That's all in their head. I got nothing to do with that. The minute I see them getting clingy, I'm out. And so I gotta say, he's a dog. He was a player, but he's right. You see, because he let women know what he was about. And at that point, they had a choice. They either hung out with him for a good time, or they went their merry way after smacking the crap out of him. You get what I'm saying? He was absolutely right. The key to all of this is not that he's a player or a dog. It's that he was honest about it. He knows who he knows who he was. He knows who he is. And he let them know that. And I shouldn't even listen, guys, I'm not criticizing that because I know we got people who they like to live the free life. I'm not criticizing that, okay? If you know yourself enough to know that you don't want commitment, you just want to live free, there's nothing wrong with that. Let me just say it. I was just giving him a hard time. But he was honest about it. He knew who he was and he said the truth. And it occurs to me, that's the key to it. So bringing this example back to the intercultural, long distance relationship, listen, you got to put the cards on the table from the beginning. You got to tell whoever you're going to be with, man or woman, this is what I want. This is what I expect. I am not willing to do this or that. Okay? And you have to be willing to hear their side because two become one. It's not just about you. You have to be willing to hear what they have to say. What you have to avoid, however, is acquiescing to everything the other person wants. I had a client this week, getting ready to get married. And he, I was explaining to him what steps to take, how he has to approach it and all this other stuff. And he said, well, she wants to do this. I don't agree with it, but I guess I'll go along with it. I don't really care for, what she's planning to do, but I want, it makes her happy. And I stood there and I said, well, what makes you happy? Got to be careful with that. Because if in the beginning of a relationship, you start out doing everything to please that person, they're going to get used to always getting their way. And when it comes down and when it comes time for you to get what you want, it's too late. They're not used to that. They're not even going to know how to satisfy your needs. So that's something that has to be addressed in the beginning. And I'm going to bring you back to my experience. After I got divorced, I was in a relationship for about 4 years. Colonel, a brigade commander. I got a thing for men in uniforms. You might as well know that. Anyway, he had a very, very demanding job. That career is just unbelievably hard. A very unstable life. But I'm going to share this with you guys. I'm a caregiver. I spoil men. It's like I never had kids. So that instinct to just care for someone and coddle them and just douse them with attention. I was never able to just to do that, so I have all that caregiving energy inside, and since I don't have any kids, I express it toward men. So I'm very caring. I take care of them, douse over them and all this other stuff. And so what happens? It all became about his needs. But the human spirit, folks, looks to satisfy itself. There's going to come a point where you're going to get tired of always giving. And now you're going to want in return. But when the time came for me to insist upon what I want and later even demand it, I mean, this man looked at me like I have 5 heads and I was speaking Klingon. He got used to it being all about him. So he was incapable of even understanding why I changed. You see. So in the beginning is the time to put the cards on the table. And the importance of this is that if the person decides they don't want to go along with it, they don't want to be a part of this, well, it saves you headaches and heartaches. You don't have to put the time in a relationship that later on you find is not what you need. So important to be honest. I know that in the beginning, as I said, everybody wants to put the best foot forward and you want to attract that person and you want them to fall in love. But listen, when you're talking about long distance intercultural relationships in the beginning, you got to listen less to this and more to this. You got to let logic guide you. Okay? Which brings me to the next subject here. I always advise clients who want to get married, prenuptial agreement. And that's all, prenuptial agreement is not a bad word. Prenuptial agreement has always had negative connotations, and that should not be the case. No one should judge someone for wanting to draw up a prenup. A prenup is simply recognizing that life can change directions. It's recognizing that nothing in life is guaranteed. So a prenup is not a bad word and is not an affront or is not a way of expressing doubt about the person you're going to marry. It's a way of ensuring that in the event things don't turn out as you wish, you are protected. Now, anything you obtain prior to marriage, it does not fall under community. Okay? But after you get married, anything that you purchase, any money you make falls into community. Okay? Community benefits. So it has to be split in half. So signing a prenup is just a precautionary measure that will give you peace of mind. Okay? Now listen, guys. What I'm sharing with you, as I said, is not meant to discourage you from pursuing your long distance intercultural relationship. It's meant to help you approach it in a more logical fashion and taking the necessary precautions. That's all it is. But I will tell you that a good number of people watching who are going to see this video are going to be irritated by the content. Or people who are approached by a third party telling them, in essence, the same thing will be irritated. But there's another alert. If you're sure about what you're doing, if you're secure with the relationship you have, nothing should rattle you. Not the content of this video and not the comments by a third party. But if this video bothers you, it struck a nerve. It is your subconscious mind silently telling you that it agrees with everything that has been discussed here. And therein lies another alert. You see, because hindsight is 2020. I can't tell you how many people sit in my office when they're, talking about the divorce proceedings that they went to initiate. And they tell me, the signs were there. I just didn't see it. Or I never noticed this before. I was like, oh, she didn't change. You said it. You refused to see it. You see, because the mind has an exceptional ability to transform anything to what the heart wants. If you are cow-bent on something, your mind will start to shape whatever you see. So that is almost, it matches exactly to what the heart wants. You start to push things to the back of your mind. You start to ignore the signs. And then when you hit that wall, when the divorce comes through or the divorce proceedings initiate, all the stuff that you push to the back of your mind, now you start to see it. That's why they say hindsight is 2020. Avoid that. Try to see things, however difficult it is. Focus. Focus. Try to see things in front of you, And you never know. Maybe it's something that you could discuss with the person and they could do something about it because, hey, we're all imperfect. Maybe this person doesn't realize they're doing what they're doing or they have that mindset. Another thing that I like to do when I'm getting to know a person, I ask point of view questions. Best way of knowing how their inner mind works, what their feelings on matters are. Hey, so what do you think about this? And as they express themselves, you're getting to know their views, which show you who they are. So, guys, you got to do some investigative work. It's nice to daydream. Daydreaming is good. Makes life, easier somehow. It makes, it makes the dread of the routine a little lighter to bear. It's nice to daydream, to have someone that, to look forward to talking to seeing. It's nice when somebody's speaking romantically to you, but keeping in mind the dangers, behind this kind of a relationship, you want to keep your eyes open. Feel good, but keep your eyes open, eyes and ears, okay? Well, folks, that's all for now. I hope the information was useful. I would like for the Wine Wednesday episodes to be accompanied by comments of your point of view. If you feel so inclined, share your experience. Let's get a conversation going. And I wanted to ask you guys. So I've been asked by a few people when I'm going to do a live show. I don't know. Can I handle a live show? I mean, it sounds interesting. I want you to know that every time I do one of these shows, I love reading your comments. I read every single comment posted by subscribers. I read them and I enjoy them. But I was thinking the other day, how much fun would it be if we can actually have, comments during the show? It would be so much more interesting. I want to take a poll. How many of you think I should do a live show? And when should I do the live show? Should it be about legal matters, immigration, or do you want it to be on a Wine Wednesday topic? Another thing I wanted to ask of you. As you know, in the Abreu channel, the legal topics that we talk about are topics that you ask questions about. You ask questions or you want clarification. I think I want to do the same thing with the Wine Wednesdays. What topics do you guys want to talk about next Wednesday? I would like for you to post them and we will make it a point to address them. Okay? And let me know what you think so far of the Wine Wednesdays. You know, I've been wanting to do this for a while, you know, and you're getting to see you're getting to see me sport my what is it? You know, my household clothes and my little buns and stuff and kind of like, you know, my relaxed appearance at home once I'm home. So listen, I'll be looking forward to your input, please. You know, by all means, tell me what topics you're interested in. Share with us your opinion about this content, and let me know about the live show. I'm interested in knowing about the live show. That would be interesting. There's something that I wanted to say before signing off of this recording. A wise person many years ago told me, you know, to err is human. But as long as human beings make mistakes, it is better to make a mistake doing something good and not something bad. I mean, trying to find happiness is a noble pursuit, okay? Trying to find someone to share your life with so you're not alone is a good thing. So if in the process of trying to obtain that goal, you slipped and fell, don't even worry about it. Just get up. Learn from the experience and know that you've emerged a stronger, wiser version of yourself and you will have better luck next time. Okay? So I don't want the tone of this video to be negative and put any type of discouraging thoughts in your head. It is a good thing for you to try to find the love of your life, for you to try, find someone to share your life with. That's a good thing. Okay? My purpose for recording this video is to help you to approach it in a way that you're protected. Just be smart about how you know, approach looking for the love of your life. That's all this is about. Okay, folks? So I'm looking forward to your feedback. Have a blessed evening.